play something like that. Okay?
Something like that.
I can learn piano in 5 minutes. I can
How to do it.
I can go in. So I'm Harrison Dillingham. I'm the director, writer, cinematographer, editor. That's a lot of. It's not called When We Were Young at the moment, but for the moment I'll say When We Were Young. It's about, I like to call it a meditation on grief, processing loss, sort of almost finding what's on the other end, even if you're not sure what that will actually be, through the eyes of a teenager whose best friend passes away.
What was the dream?
Please.
I mean, I was scared, you know? I couldn't tell if we were animals or poets or kings and queens. I couldn't find you. Couldn't do it. Trees are too high.
A friend of mine, her name is Victoria Okai. She passed away in late January, early February, somewhere around there of this year. And I remember when that happened, that was, it was probably one of the most shocking things that have ever happened in my life, because I literally saw her, oh gosh, I probably saw her about a month before she passed away, just like walking by in Forest Hills and just saying hi. And after she passed away, it became a question of, how do I process this? How do I, because she was so kind and warm, and she was someone who was very understanding, but also very humane. She had a very gentle soul, no doubt. Film. Initially, I didn't want to put it on film. I wasn't necessarily against it, but I just wasn't sure about how to do it or the best way to do it. And I was writing a feature for maybe a year, and eventually I realized the feature was never going to work. It's too many complex parts that weren't just working. But then this came up. I think at the time I was thinking a lot about childhood experiences. I think we all do that. We all think about our childhood. We all think about all the things that we did, all the mistakes we did, everything in between, really. And somehow that sprung this idea of, okay, let me see if I can take that grief that I had in February and let me see if I can actually try to implement that into this. I'm very much against what is taught in terms of standard screenwriting, that you have to adhere to. He does this, she does that, he does that. I think that's a very impersonal way of writing. I really wanted to see if I could push my limits to how I could unravel the story on paper in a way that was really exciting for me. That I would go, okay, I would want to read this thing, that other people want to read this thing. And what I got in terms of responses from that was a lot of people, I've never been told so many times that they thought like the script was beautiful, they thought it was poetic. I don't like to attach labels to things, so very kind of everybody who told me that. In terms, if you were to weigh the amount of people who auditioned for Andrew versus Eve, you would actually find that the scale's pretty tipped. I did not have a lot of actors actually come in for Andrew, which I thought was funny. I actually legitimately thought it was very funny.
How you doing, guys? My name is Chris Sean, and I play the lead role of Andrew. I found the production through Actors Access. I always find many different auditions for student films, short films, and things like that. And I saw When We Were Young, I saw the role of Andrew. When I first read the description, the description of Andrew is what really caught my eye in terms of just the familiarity that I had with the character. It seemed like something that, I can see myself in. So, boom, submitted for it.
Good sense of humor. Very likable.
Got an email about a week later. Yeah, about a week later for audition. Oh, I mean, that whole week was pretty cool because I had a lot of like multiple different auditions. And actually, for when we were young, that was my first audition of two the same day. So it was almost like a rush thing to do. But going through NYU and then seeing Harrison, meeting him for the first time, doing that audition, he was pretty helpful even with that.
After he left, a couple people were with me, and I turned to them and I said, you know, he has this gentle quality to him. I forgot what I wrote in my notes, but I think I wrote something like, I feel his presence. I really feel his presence. And that was something that was really important to Andrew. Somebody who you could sort of feel every side of him without having to actually speak. And I saw a lot of opportunity for him to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And that's certainly a big part of the role.
Oh my god, what are you doing, bro? There's 2 squirrels now. Squirrels, 7 squirrels!
Oh my god.
There's squirrels everywhere! Hi, my name is Mia Kusianovic, and in the film I played Eve. When I submitted myself, then I got an invitation to come to the audition at the Tisch building. And I came in, and then there was Harrison there with the producer and also a reader. I think it was a friend of his, Jean-Paul. We were all really just kind of like awkward at first. I'm like, hi, how are you? As we do when these are formal things sometimes. But then after a couple of minutes, it was very fun.
Almost like how I had to personally elevate my own work, she elevated my work even further.
There's this line called, it goes, even sitting in a tree, K-I-S-S-I-N-G, first comes love. And then I don't know, he was laughing at my response to that. It was a really organic response.
I didn't really have anything written for the baby carriage part, but she did something brilliant, which was she mouthed, and it knocked my socks off. She inhabited that character, and we haven't even casted her yet. I felt like this is Eve.
We had a couple of rehearsals. We had about 4 solid rehearsals. I think they were about 2 to 3 hours each. Yeah, we were discussing with Harrison as well about what his take and what his vision or idea of the story is, or how he would like us to sort of interpret it. But he also was very open to us finding our own interpretations and exploring that stuff together.
It wasn't so much telling them verbs, for example, like telling them, oh, you know, you have to comfort him, or you have to no. It's not to say that's not effective. I felt like I needed it to be more of a conversation.
Right at the first rehearsal, you know, we were just trying to figure out how to play around with the script.
What their backstories might be, or how they came to know each other, just like actor technical things, right?
You know, even though I had something jotted down, you know, by all means necessary, I was like, I will not adhere to this. You can come up with something completely different, and let's talk about it. We all came upon an agreement that, you know, Andrew's this musician who's been through arts high school. He wanted to pursue music, but he never pursued it. Eve's somebody who always loved art. She's always loved to draw, but she never had the opportunity to actually do that. But regardless of what really happened, it's always been an escape. Having them together, you know, pairing them up, seeing how they work together, that worked really well.
We hit it off right away. He's so kind and so funny and just so open to new ideas.
I wouldn't say it was a spark from the start, but it was pretty open once I first met her, because I met her at the very first rehearsal.
And when we would get into a rut, as you do sometimes, we would start a dialogue about like, okay, what can I do for you? Or how can I help in a way that's like, okay, we're partners on this. How can we support each other?
Slate, Harold.
Scene 2.2, take 1.
Good Slate. Alrighty. Hold for action. Action. I think in a lot of ways, being on set is probably like the most emotional experience like in my career though so far. really, because there was something very careful about the whole thing in terms of how the set went, how the set ran, and it was very, I don't want to say it was delicate, but it was very well-rounded set that really had a lot emotionally at stake. But ironically, I didn't feel any pressure from that. I actually felt very comforted because everybody who worked on the film, they really cared about it, and they cared about the story that it was that was being told. And there was one shot in the hallway, and when I think we did that 4 or 5 times, I remember at the tail end of that last take being in tears because I felt it. And the whole set was, looking back on that moment and a couple of others, really the whole set, it was a very careful experience, and it was one that was guided by emotion.
I've been on hundreds and hundreds of shoots. This production, I felt like, was a more special experience because of the camaraderie with it and everyone collabing on everything. I mean, it's not something that I've really seen before because it's usually about, place, position, and, doing your job, but everyone was pretty helpful.
It was so just warm, I think. It was shot at Harrison's childhood home, and that within itself is it's such a beautiful neighborhood. I was just in awe. So it being in that space, I don't know, it just made me feel really creative and flexible in a way that I don't know. I don't know what it was, but that space is, in my opinion, very, very magical, for lack of a better word. Yeah, and his mom was there, so kind, and the entire cast and crew were phenomenal and just super on it, hardworking.
Let's see. So it's a very emotional film, but I remember we had a lot of laughs on set.
What are you doing? Stop! No! I don't need this! Stop!
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
I should be the ghost in the film, actually. I should be like one of the ghosts.
You're Eve. You were
Like he's playing the sad music and you're just like, and like a tear streams down your face.
Cameras roll.
Scene 5, take 3.
Good slate.
I'm Marlena Lerner, and I was second AC on Harrison's film. It was on to student crew calls, so I submitted my resume through that.
Wasn't it your first set on NYU, or have you done other sets before?
It was my second or third, so I was still new at it, but I felt very comfortable in that environment. A good energy on that set, a lot of banter but professionalism, good balance of that, so I had a good time.
I didn't realize this, but somebody told me, like, do you realize that you like to say, but it's okay though?
Yeah.
That's okay. It's okay. Don't feel pressure. It's okay. Oh no, but it's alright though. It's okay. It's alright though. That probably made no sense, but it's alright though.
I mistake his name, he's gonna kill me. Probably JW and that guy balancing the broom on their chins.
Oh, Alex.
Alex,
Yeah.
yes.
Me and the script supervisor really shared a lot of memes with each other.
Do we have the Joker on set?
I don't think we do.
So you want the leaf blower story. So we're outside shooting. The scene was a man just raking up leaves. And then right next door is when the landscapers came in. And they were like leaf blowing and like trimming hedges, completely boned the sound department, which was my job. And then we waited and waited, and they finally stopped and drove off, so we were like, sweet, let's go do this. And they go take a loop around the block, jump back out, and started leaf blowing. So we were all just jagging around, laughing about how they drove off and they realized they missed one leaf. So they came back and like double team one leaf on like this old lady's lawn before she came out and started bitching about how they did a horrible job missing this one leaf. We were just fucking dying over it.
I think we were coming out of the scene where I'm reading the letter that he gives to me. the birthday letter, and as I'm leaving, everything was sort of crowded because all of the equipment. So then I stepped away, and then I hit my head right there, and it was still rolling, so I had to be quiet. And I was like, and everyone's like, "Okay, we got it."
Do you actually play? Can you play songs?
Oh, hey, my name is Evan. I was one of the kids that said I could be a part of this set. I was eager to be a part of it. It was my first one. I haven't done one before. And so I just reached out to him. I said I could help in any way possible. And then he emailed me back and said I could be a PA and media manager.
What I usually like to do is I like to have another eye. And so he actually jumped in and sort of helped to camera operate. Like there's this one shot I had storyboarded of the window scene. And I knew the shot in my head we could not do. I knew that we couldn't do it. But then Evan comes up to me, he's like, what if she went like this? And so he shows me that, and I'm going, oh, yes. I remember being like, so wait, do you actually, do you want to be a cinematographer? He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, wait, really? Wait, how do you know how to use the camera? And he's like, I've never used the camera in my life. I'm going, oh my God, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I just learned the functions quickly just by watching very closely what Harrison and Benji and what they were kind of doing, and then I learned that, picked that up quickly, and when Harrison got tired doing the camera operator, I was like, I'll do it, I'll step in.
We were shooting the piano scene, and we initially, and this is how it was written, at the end of the piano scene, Eve and Andrew just kind of sat there, and that's not very interesting. Script supervisor JW goes, kind of taps me on the shoulder like, and he was like, you know how they hug in the beginning? What the heck at the end? I'm going, and the actors just lit up. They were like, I was lucky enough to have an incredible script supervisor who jotted down as many notes as possible and basically gave me a really helpful rundown of really what I needed, what I didn't need, and also what I could use as alternatives, and that was incredibly helpful.
Yeah,
the AC has a
hi, I love you guys.
So I don't know.
Hey, hi.
I know.
Oh, are you sleeping? Yeah, you're sleeping. Okay. Hi, Ray. All right, they're alive and well.
I got it.
Yeah, you did. Hi, I'm Dylan. I was the AC on Harrison's set via the Facebook. That was one of my first sets that I did at Tisch. So it was very interesting just to see how everything works and how everybody works together. And it was also a new camera for me to use, the C300. So it was cool to use that. This is when we were doing the long shot outside of the house, and we had to do a tracking shot. It was really, really fun. Watching what we just shot of that long take afterwards, that was definitely a really cool moment. It was like everybody was gathered around that table and was just watching it on a little LCD screen and was just watching the cool moment of the shoot.
I'm not much of a lighting person. I'm not much of a lighting expert or anything on that.
I had just put my name down and got an email from Harrison asking if I wanted to gaff this shoot.
Benji was a really big help with coming with lighting. Like I showed him the set, I showed him the bedroom, and I said, all right, you gotta supplement that lamp. And he's going, okay. And he did a pretty good job with setting up the lights, and we were using Keynotes, so he was in charge of like setting everything up, building everything down, making sure it was all consistent as possible. He did his best, and for that I'm forever grateful.
Oh my God, the howling scene.
And action.
Okay, ready?
No.
Ready? Come on. Ready?
All right,
1, 2,
fine.
3, 4, 5.
I felt like I did such a terrible job at howling. I didn't practice it, but it's just like, all right, let's go. And then me is just jumping up and down. And I'm just like, And she's just full of energy, full of joy to just do it. I'm like, okay, boom, pop.
So I was just kind of bouncing around, helping out a little bit with anything I could. I'm mostly here to observe since I'm still a high school senior and I want to go to NYU. That was my first set. I learned so much. Just the collaboration and the feeling that you get being on set. Like I've never experienced that before. So this idea of like everyone just kind of bouncing the ideas off of each other is really cool. Like it's like things that you think of in your head, but then you never see it like actually happen. And when you see it like actually going on, it's amazing. It's so cool.
Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
That's a wrap. But going through dailies, going through everything, what was really interesting, because the film isn't driven by music and it's driven by visuals, and the amounts of shots we actually got was pretty minimal. We were actually able to finish the film in relatively quickly, I think, and it was 14 minutes. Once I cut it down to 12, I looked at it and I went, you know what? I'll adjust, certainly. Initially in the script, he goes to the kitchen in the morning, he goes to the kitchen at night, something like that. I realized that I actually couldn't do that. Because that in itself was repetitive. Looking at the way it unfolded, I realized I could actually use the dinner part of that instead of the morning part. And we'd still understand that he is in mourning. We were able to cut, I would say, about a minute off of that. Probably came out to around 25 seconds, 20 seconds, as long as I could hold the shot before the beeper goes off. It's so funny how little I cut, yet it made such a big difference, which I find fascinating. That's why I love editing.
Hey there, my name is Alex Joaquim and I'm the composer for When We Were Young. A few of us composers went and presented our music to a class he was in, and we all presented things that we really are proud of. And Harrison reached out to me later on saying that he felt that my music and my artistic voice would really work well with his picture. I was happy to work with Harrison a little bit before the cut was ready and before it was time to put the music in the picture. Well before that, to kind of develop a sound palette, a sound world. I was really drawn into this complex approach of grief, not just like a one-sided, this person's sad, this person, no. It's so much more intricate than that. There's joy, there's pain, there's peace, there's glory, there's everything precious to the human experience. And because we were able to come to that, now everything that I do has to do with that, which is a really great way to approach a piece of film. You find a sound, and then you start to have the score kind of around the sound, come from it, come away from it. There's this point of reference that grounds everything of what we're creating. So it's really fun. I mean, I get to go in and kind of, I'm still in the middle of writing for the picture, but I get to go in and start to think, what pieces of that do I want to say, and how do I want to say those pieces, and how can I make it so subtle, so nuanced, so perfect to that emotion, a complex emotion. And yeah, so it's been a lot of fun so far working on this, and I'm excited to continue it, finish it, and really do justice for Harrison's film.
What I would love for people to take away from the film is things happen, things that are completely out of our control. But the people who we lose and love, they're always going to be there. They may not be there physically, but they'll be there spiritually and emotionally, and even through memories and dreams perhaps, they never leave us, even if they leave us. Like I said this before, but being on set, even now I'm actually having still a hard time reeling in from it. I think I called my mom today and I was like, this was such an emotionally elevated set that walking away from that experience and sort of being in the environment that the film was in, to walk away from that and walk away from, Chris and Mia and the rest of the crew, it's been very difficult to walk away from that for me. And I only hope that all their efforts at the end of the day, stand the test of time, and that's my hope. That's certainly my hope.
Cool. Awesome, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So there's a prayer scene,
yes.
And I know you're a Roman Catholic.
Yes.
Was there if any, spiritual influences were there for you personally?
I think initially I knew the film wasn't going to be very religiously based, but I did know I'm faithful to a degree where prayer is important to me. So in the feature there was actually this prayer scene that was really long. I think it was I think in the short, it was in the earlier versions, it was still there, but it was a very different version of it. And I feel like, I guess going back to the silence, initially we had voiceover of this prayer of him being being angry at God. And I just felt like his face said everything, so I felt like we actually didn't need that voiceover.
I'm not religious, but I do have a religious family. They're Christian. And it's something that humbled me a little bit because I remember as a kid, doing all those things, going with my grandmother to church because she's very much in it. So it was a very humbling experience to, go back to that again.
We try some things with dialogue, we try some things without dialogue. The ending, initially Andrew was going to read the letter, or half the letter, to Eve, and what I actually found was silence is immensely powerful. It's an immensely powerful tool. When we took out that bit and we just had Mia reading the letter, I went, yep, that's it.
So Harrison had written the letter from Andrew to Eve, saying happy birthday, thank you for being there for me throughout everything. You've been the closest friend to me and my life. In order to connect to it, I wrote down something personal from my own life. It's a letter that my mom wrote to me on my 16th birthday. So I just filled in a lot of the really beautiful things that move me every time I read it. And just someone taking the time to write that heartfelt letter and showing that they care about you and showing that sort of affection,
What it does to a taxi driver.
I think is really beautiful.